Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to this week in Bitcoin. Today is October the 23rd, 2020. Strong hand, long-term thinking. Bitcoin is Bitcoin, unconfiscatable. I'm offended by selling. Don't FOMO on alts. We're one day closer to an all-time high. Hello, my elite friends. If you got questions, we got answers. You can type in questions in there. Also, do super chat, type in BitcoinMeister. I'm really excited to have three awesome guests back on the show. We got Reed Womack, Alex Spetsky, and Al's Lacrosse. And somebody might have, there's a little echo. Okay, that somebody just fixed it. All right, dudes. Very good. Let us start off. There's been a lot of big news this week, hasn't there, people? Oh, my elite friends, you're so happy. You fiat freaks, you're starting to value your wealth in Bitcoin, in dollars a little bit because of all the good news and 13,000 this and that and the other, all time, one day closer to an all-time high. But let's address the news, and that is the biggest news of the week. Obviously, was PayPal, and there's more news now too. PayPal there's rumors about them acquiring Bitcoin companies. But let's just start out with Alex, who's always got great takes. He's from once glorious Australia. But and so, Alex, what is your take on PayPal bringing Bitcoin option to millions of people around the globe?
Well, I mean, I think thank you, Adam, for having me on again. I think people know my opinion with this, particularly being someone who, runs a Bitcoin accumulation product. I find it not interesting at all. I did a post about it the other day calling it fake Bitcoin because, when you're buying something that's just a representation of Bitcoin, you're not buying Bitcoin. It's no different to what Revolut does or Robinhood. It's all the same garbage. I don't think it's cool. Is it news for other people? Maybe, would it, I think Novogratz was saying something today about, how now all the other banks and everything are going to be looking at why they don't have it on their as an offering for them. The problem though I have with that is without being able to actually withdraw your Bitcoin, you don't even know. Someone could argue that it's going to bring extra demand to Bitcoin, but you don't really know because it's just ledger entries on their internal ledger. Like is it Bitcoin? Do they hold any Bitcoin? Like you have no idea. And the fact that they're specifically, not allowing withdrawals. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot to buy Bitcoin on PayPal. Like you'd have to be an absolute clown. So I don't know. Well, I don't find it interesting.
A lot of people do not know. They don't understand the basic concept of withdrawing your Bitcoin from a third party. Just as most people grow up, they don't really understand the concept of withdrawing your money from a bank, even on a certain level. So people are very used to third parties taking care of their finances. So this is just, it's not very revolutionary. But, and we did know, obviously, all these guys are linked to below. You should follow them online on Twitter. And Alex had already tweeted about this, that this was fake Bitcoin. And as Alex pointed out, he's coming from a perspective where he's in charge of a company, Amber, that's trying to get people to actually, own, take Bitcoin into their possession and learn proper protocol with it. But a lot of people are on PayPal. It's free marketing for Bitcoin to hundreds of millions of people. So I wanted to, before we move on to the other guys, do you have a take on the marketing aspect of it? That in terms of PR, it's pretty good. It's informing some people that may have never heard about it.
Probably. Look, you could argue that, but it's like that they're really taking a crypto position. They're not taking much of a Bitcoin position. So I don't know whether it's just going to cause another wave of confusion. Because you're going to be able to buy, all the other poop coins on there. So I don't know. I don't know. Yet to be seen. And I think also that it's only going to be available in the US to begin with, and then it's going to go out to other places and stuff. So I've personally never liked PayPal as a company. I think they're an abhorrent company. The exchange rates are ripoffs. You know, the service is a pile of junk. They hold your money ransom. Like, you know, I had some dramas with PayPal recently myself, and I absolutely blasted them on Twitter. To their credit, though, their support people actually helped after like 3 months of chasing their support people on their own website. But it's like, it's your money's not even yours, let alone your Bitcoin. So it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe from a marketing perspective, it'll get it into like maybe people will perceive, you know, Bitcoin, you know, as, you know, a crypto that is, you know, now more, I don't know, what do you call it? Like
Mainstream?
Kosher or mainstream. Yeah, mainstream is probably the word. Yeah. But other than that, yeah, whatever.
All right. You're absolutely right. There will be plenty of people that will be that will diversify for the sake of diversification. They will think Bitcoin is too expensive at 13,000, so they'll just buy the Litecoin or the Ethereum or what's the other, or Bcash even. So yeah, there'll be plenty. I mean, that's the way of the world. Now, Al's Lacrosse, what's your take on the situation?
Yeah, I think they're pretty clearly at the moment just marketing to the least knowledgeable demographic. The whole thing where you're not able to withdraw your Bitcoin obviously misses the point for all of us who are into Bitcoin. And to me, it smacks of a very, no pun intended, but a tokenistic approach where it's just, oh yeah, we're getting into this thing too, but it clearly is not being done in a way that understands the whole purpose of Bitcoin. So they do have huge reach. You know, they have how many millions of customers. It may allow some people to start thinking about Bitcoin, so I guess that's good. I don't see it more as intrinsically bullish in itself, but more as it's more symbolically bullish because it's showing you that behind the scenes, the big players in the financial world and the money world are really starting. Bitcoin is out of the phase of, well, let's see what happens with this. They're ready to go. I don't think PayPal is going to be the thing that changes a lot of institutions' minds on it. I think it's the other way. I think PayPal is just an indicator that the minds have already been changed. But it highlights some of the we talk about information asymmetry sometimes here in Bitcoin world, and it really highlights how you can have all the facts in the world available to you, and everybody's got the same facts that we do, but to be able to understand it all in a holistic, systemic way, that escapes a lot of people. And this really just shows, you know, people who are excited about this, I think, don't really get the purpose of Bitcoin. It's essentially fake Bitcoin, like Alex said. Huge proof of reserves problem with that too. And maybe someday we'll look back at PayPal as a really good human sacrifice offered up to the proof of reserves gods, because maybe they're building themselves a disaster in the future. And we'll be able to point to them and say, see, this is why it's the ultimate, not your keys, not your coins. So.
But the thing is, since there's just going to be trading IOUs back and forth, I mean, it almost doesn't even matter if they have any Bitcoin to back it up.
It does when people try and start to withdraw their Bitcoin into dollars, and PayPal can't cover their dollars unless they have enough dollars flowing into the system. And so it sort of requires continuous growth in order to subsist, or
there's a word for something like that.
Is that called a Bernie Madoff?
It is called a Ponzi. It is. But again, PayPal's got a lot of money. PayPal's got a lot of people all over the world sending all sorts of money, paying all sorts of fees, having their money. Again, with PayPal, you don't know when you're going to get shut down. As Alex has pointed out, that's one of the glorious reasons people should be using Bitcoin in the first place. But Alex Lacrosse, you make a good point. People are not curious today. They don't want to learn. I mean, they eat up whatever they're fed. Okay, and so if they're told this is Bitcoin, they're going to believe this is Bitcoin. It's tough luck for them that they're not going to know what the real Bitcoin is. Alex's article that we'll get to later talks about how people are just not very curious today. But when they become curious, they get the real Bitcoin. All right, so Reed,
I on the whole agree with both what Alex has said and what Alex Lacrosse has said. Like, this is fake Bitcoin. It is going to be fractionally reserved, and it's likely going to blow up one day. And go on, Alex.
No, you finish first, man. I was just gonna add one more thing to it. That's all.
Yeah. So on that front, like Bitcoiners not excited about it. Normies, I think like this is the top of the funnel. Like a lot of people get into Bitcoin and do not own their private keys at first. And we can't always expect people just immediately own their private keys. And we can't even expect people that will immediately start with a company, even though they should, that will allow them to own their private keys. And so this is top of the funnel, and people are going to learn about Bitcoin. And then as they learn more, hopefully people who are more knowledgeable will teach them, like, you need to get off PayPal. Like this has huge risks that they're not revealing to you. And they'll move to companies more like Amber App or more like Swan. And so like the marketing side of it for normies, I think is big. And, you know, I don't think that Bitcoiners, as much as we would like to ever, or to have all companies always run full reserves and always allow people to withdraw their Bitcoin, which is, you know, what we're moving towards. Like we have to expect these sort of like legacy fiat companies to try and like play both sides, and try and run fractional reserves on Bitcoin, and try and just give people price exposure to the Bitcoin price without actually giving them the keys. So I'm not gonna like, you know, shoot PayPal down or anything. I'm like definitely not going to suggest anyone ever use it. But like the rose-colored glasses I see on this is just getting more people exposed to the concept of Bitcoin, so that politically it becomes less and less palatable to ban Bitcoin, or to sort of like paint Bitcoiners as wrecking the world, which is, you know, in my mind, sort of like the cultural battle of the 2020s.
That last bit, Reed, I really strongly agree with, is sort of the perception, and I think I kind of mentioned that in the beginning, is like if anything, this is sort of like a little bit of PR for the legitimacy of Bitcoin, you know, amongst normies. But one of the interesting points you touched on there, which I was going to actually mention again, is this idea that because, you know, what you're buying with, you know, the PayPals of the world is effectively fake Bitcoin. I don't actually think that puts real upward pressure on the price itself. I think what'll be interesting though is that because PayPal or a product like that as a way to accumulate Bitcoin is such a top of funnel entry point for people, there's a couple things. What I think they're actually going to be doing is not the marketing for just Bitcoin, but they're probably going to do the marketing for companies like Swan and Amber, because in the same way as PayPal did the marketing for products like TransferWise. So if you jump on PayPal now and you swap some USD to Euro, you're going to cop like a spread that's as wide as, I don't know, the Grand Canyon. I was going to say something about someone's grandmother, but let's keep this kosher. So, you know, the spread's huge, right? Whereas on TransferWise, you have a really, really, really tight spread. Now, you know, TransferWise came in and they ate up a bunch of PayPal's cross-border business because of that reason. Now, I think anyone with, you know, like they may use PayPal initially, but when they see how much they're losing when they go back and forth between, you know, fake dollars and fake Bitcoin on PayPal, they're going to want another way. So they're going to find a Swan or an Amber. And I think they're going to do the marketing for us. Then when people move through the funnel to a product like ours, that's when there's going to be upward price pressure on Bitcoin, because that's actually going to be real purchases of Bitcoin. So that's an interesting progression.
And that's a very positive spin on the entire situation. These 20%ers will find out how to buy the real thing, and they will contact you, hopefully. But and great point about the what will cause price pressure and what will not. So I do want to say there's a lot of people watching right now. Retweet this, dudes. Thank you for the contributions. Let's read this out real quick. Just pound that like button. Here to support you, unique beast, says Kwang Mien. Thank you, dude. I really butchered your name there. And also, we got the great Gregor Kovacs sitting $5. Shabbat shalom. He says, yes, indeed. I'll say that at the end of the show also. So, okay, I want to stick with this topic here because there's more to the PayPal story. They're getting their tentacles even deeper into Bitcoin, apparently. So, Al's Lacrosse, what do you think about this? PayPal rumored to be eyeing acquisition of crypto custodian Go.
Well, I think, as we were talking, I was looking over some of the quotes from PayPal the other day, and it reminds me of we have an ongoing joke with the Dirtbag Friday meetup group about Coin. And the idea of Coin is that it's an obvious scam, and it's sort of this aggregation of bullshit narratives, which actually could sound good to people who don't know anything about how Bitcoin functions or how cryptocurrencies function. And this quote from PayPal about how you're not going to hold your own private key, and that's a loss prevention tactic. That's straight out of Altcoin. I mean, it's like, look, we're doing you a favor. We're holding your private key, so you never have to worry about it. And if you're just some kind of noob, that sounds like great. Oh, great. They're handling all my problems for me. But obviously, we know why that's complete bullshit. As they're moving into possibly buying some custodial services, maybe they will end up changing some of this eventually. Maybe they will have a way for people to offload Bitcoin into their own wallets. When you're dealing with companies this size, they have a lot of money to make a lot of huge power moves. So some of what we're criticizing them for right now, maybe it'll change, but I'm not giving them credit until I see it. But they've got the cash to throw around and to start buying up these custodial services. It looks like a lot of it had to do also with the Bit license in New York. They've just created these layers and layers of bureaucracy, and they'll all be doing each other favors, and everybody's going to be paying off the right people to be able to do business there. So we'll see how that pans out.
You talk about them making it seem like a cool thing, a good thing that they'll take care of your cryptocurrency. They'll take care of your cryptocurrency for you. I mean, there's just news. I'm just reading on CoinDesk. Digital asset manager Grayscale Investment has acquired an additional $300 million in cryptocurrencies over the last 24 hours. I mean, this is the way of the world. People want other people to manage their Bitcoin for them. Okay, I mean, it's a growing thing. Be your own bank, manage your own private keys. It looks like the normies are going in the other direction, and there's some entities that are charging some fees for that type of thing. So I wanted to throw that news out there. It seems like every day Grayscale is getting more and more locking more and more Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies away. Okay, Reed, what is your take on the possibility of PayPal acquiring Bitcoin companies? I mean, it just might not just be custodial stuff. I mean, they've got all the money. They got a lot of money over there. And how deep do they want to get into this space?
I'm personally less a fan of sort of legacy companies acquiring Bitcoin companies, and I think that this isn't, for Bitcoin in general, is potentially not a great thing. Whereas PayPal offering paper Bitcoin, in my mind, sort of a non-issue. My main concern is companies that are built on the fiat system have just a different understanding of how fractional reserve banking works, and when you acquire a company that is built natively Bitcoin with like a mindset and a worldview and a structure that is full reserve. If you are a massive player like PayPal and you acquire a tiny company, you could potentially shift the culture of that company away from its original full reserve. And that's sort of my main concern about it. And personally, I would like to see companies like BitGo just maintain their independence and partner with fiat native companies. So I'm not particularly pleased with this news. Like in my mind, companies like BitGo or like an Unchained should never ever get consumed by a Goldman Sachs or a PayPal. Like they should always be independent.
Yeah. The positive spin on that, on your take, is that back in 2015, we could never even imagine that there'd be big corporate entities buying up Bitcoin companies. I mean, I think it's a good thing to be wanted, for there to be demand for companies. Just learned Bitcoin.com just sent 100 Mexican pesos. Thank you. Keep stacking. Sassy says, dudes, keep on sending those super chats, and thank you for the support, guys. I'll read what you guys have to say. Alex, your thoughts on companies being acquired by? I mean, how about if you got offered hundreds of millions of dollars to be acquired? Or I mean, I think you've got a different perspective since you actually run a Bitcoin company.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, man. I mean, there's two arguments there. There's one which is you sell it to them, and you take the money, you buy Bitcoin, and then you build another Bitcoin business. and you you make their lives difficult again, because then you have more resources to do it with. So that's one thing. And then, I mean, the thing is that this space is evolving so quickly that there's no shortage of products or things that need to be built anyway. So it's like if a big conglomerate or something like that came along to and offered me something ridiculous to buy Amber, I may I would consider it depending on the amount. And I know some people might be like, oh my God, that's blasphemy. You're going to sell your Bitcoin company. But the thing is, I would turn around again, like I said, go straight back into building another Bitcoin business. So that's like, Amber is just one vehicle for me. So when I like, for example, when I talk to investors or when I talk to people about, why I'm doing Amber, is I say that my passion and my mission for this chapter of my life, which is, probably 10, 15, 20 years, is Bitcoin. That's the mission. That's the focus. That's the goal. That's what I'm living and dying for at this point in time. Now, Amber is just the entrepreneurial expression of that mission. So, whether I'm doing Amber or whether I'm doing something else, in and around Bitcoin, like, I want to, long term, after Amber's successful and all that sort of stuff, I want to get into building private cities, like what I think is going to be the future of citadels. Now, for me, that is also a form of a Bitcoin project. So I don't know. I'm a little bit more, probably unexpectedly open to acquisition, because I know that, the clown show that is the existing financial system, or the existing, the old guard, whatever you want to call them. I mean, they're going to have two options. They're either going to buy these kind of services that we've built and continue operating them, with the ethos that made them successful in the first place, or they're going to chuck a Microsoft, with what they did with, Skype and LinkedIn and everything else, and just bury it and destroy it. So they're going to hurt themselves anyway. But we've been able to take their money, put it back into Bitcoin anyway, because I mean, any Bitcoiner who sells a business is going to buy Bitcoin. Like, I mean, I couldn't think of anything dumber to do than to exit a Bitcoin business and stay in dollars. You'd be an absolute moron to do that anyway. So you're going to take that money, put it into Bitcoin anyway, and then just go and build something that makes their life difficult again, and then get them to come buy you again. Why not?
Yeah, I think that's a great take. Value your wealth in Bitcoin. And Alex actually answered a question. He didn't know this, but he really has answered a question that was in the chat. He said, what's up? Somebody in the chat said, what's up with the Bitcoin maximalists liking these banks buying? Well, dude, they're coming to us and making us rich. Who anyone can get into Bitcoin. That's the glorious thing about Bitcoin. You can't say, oh no, I don't like you, you're not allowed to be in here. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. Uncensorable, unconfiscatable. You can't prevent anybody. So the banks are coming to us. They're playing out. We didn't have to go to them. We're in the Bitcoin overlay. They are coming to us. So it is, all these years we've been talking about it, and now it's actually happening. So yes, of course, we're now, we don't need their confirmation, but hey, welcome to the party. This is where the big boys play. So no, I can see why Bitcoiners are quite enthused and happy. We didn't go to them. They came to play our game. So and they're making us rich. So banks, do what you're welcome here, and people who hate me are welcome here. That is the beauty of Bitcoin. So, but yet people still don't get that. I mean, people. I think the person who asked the question wanted me to mention his fifth tier altcoin that's pumped up by a psychopath out there, but I won't mention it. So
I think
now,
what you're going to see today is there's sort of an ongoing theme of we knew this day would come, and it's almost beside the point of do we like it or not. We've been talking for years about there will be the time when the big institutions jump on board, when big corporations, big banks jump on board. And we all knew this was coming. And here we are. So the mission now is to make sure they can't F it up too badly. And my faith is in the protocol itself to limit some of that too. But yeah, we all knew this was going to happen. It's not a matter of what do we think about it. It's going to happen. It's what was going to happen. So now we're on that train. We got to ride it.
Yeah, dude. This is not 2016 anymore, baby. I told you in 2016, you buy it now so you enjoy life in 2020. But there were but people were no coiners. There were no coiners. Believe you me, I wasn't just talking that talk, baby. Pound that like button. All right. Wait, does someone else have something else to say? I'm getting too pumped here about PayPal. All right. Let's go to the bigger question. But before we leave this, I just and I think I know what people are going to say. Reed Womack, what's the bigger news of the year? The MicroStrategy news or the PayPal news?
For Bitcoiners, it's the MicroStrategy news for sure. I think for normies, it's PayPal.
That was that some other people, when I mentioned it on another show of mine, that was another take. That was a take someone else had. How about you, Alex?
Yeah, it's the important news is MicroStrategy, and the surface level pointless modern media MSM dumbass news is PayPal. So take that as you will.
Yes, 80%ers and 20%ers, guys. All right, Al's Lacrosse, what's your take?
Yeah, same answer. PayPal will grab a lot more headlines, but as far as what is going to be more important, it's absolutely MicroStrategies. It's kind of like with a band. It's like, who is more influential versus who's more popular. There's a lot of pop groups that sold more albums than Bob Dylan, but Bob Dylan's more influential. Sailor is going to be much more important, but PayPal will get the headlines.
Alex, what's your take on Michael Saylor almost becoming the social media face of Bitcoin?
I think the guy's great, man. Like I think he actually did what very few public CEOs did, which is he dropped the arrogant facade. He humbled himself. He took some time to read, learn, and he obviously was reading the right resources. He's got his head around it. He gets it, and he did what matters, which is he put skin in the game. He put his money where his mouth is. So, man, respect to him for that. Like there's, and it wasn't, and again, it wasn't a 5% or 10% or 20%. Like he did a big chunk. So there's nothing I can flaw there. I think he's a solid guy, and he's got his head in the right space, and he's gonna win big out of this, man. Like, so good on him.
All right. Best guests in the space here every freaking Friday, dude. Pound that like button. Well, okay, I think I know what everybody's take is on Saylor, but we had another person speaking their mind making the news this week, and that was Paul Tudor Jones. Return of the Paul Tudor Jones. Paul Tudor Jones Strikes Back, the sequel. All right. So, Reed, what was your take on Paul Tudor Jones really, saying this is like getting in on Google early, and this is how you protect your wealth from inflation. He was saying all sorts of glowing things, which makes you think he might have more Bitcoin than I originally thought he had. Take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think late this spring, early summer, it came out pretty positive on Bitcoin. Pretty positive being like a 1% allocation or something like that, or that it's a compelling hedge against inflation. And yesterday, I think he came out much more positively. And it was actually funny listening to that interview on CNBC, because a lot of the stuff he was saying was pretty much straight out of Michael Saylor's mouth. It's like very clear that he's been paying attention to Michael Saylor in terms of Paul Tudor Jones' ideas evolving from this is like, a compelling hedge similar to gold to, this is actually a combination of a hedge and a growth stock like Apple. Like this is a network that will grow as quickly as Apple or Facebook could grow. He said something like that, which is, very much a Michael Saylor idea. He was also sort of talking about Bitcoin being a source of hope and inspiration, and like betting on the ingenuity of mankind as a hedge, like using that as a hedge rather than betting like against mankind, which is sort of what in his mind he framed gold being like that. I mean, that's another idea that Michael Saylor has just like recently been popularizing. And so in my mind, like listening to Paul Tudor Jones is like, yeah, this guy's one of the most successful traders ever, right? Incredibly good short-term trader, but a lot of his like mental models for how he was looking at Bitcoin were clearly inspired by Michael Saylor.
Very good. Again, that's why the MicroStrategy was the biggest news of the year. It's influencing people behind the scenes also. And gold is for doomers, and Bitcoin is for the golden age people who want innovation. I think you innovate with technology, and you kind of go to the Stone Age with rocks. But let's Al's Lacrosse. What's your take on Paul Tudor Jones?
Yeah, it's similar theme as far as we've all known that this day was coming. But it's good to hear. You know, he's telling us something that we already know, but hopefully the rest of the world will be listening. I'm not super excited on the comparison to startups. It's a little bit tricky because I do think Bitcoin is a very different thing, but it's hard in a 5-minute CNBC interview to explain that what we're witnessing is a completely new idea that civilization has never seen before. So I guess the analogy to startups is probably good for the beginner. I just think there are a lot of differences to the idea of a decentralized universal store of value coming out of seemingly nowhere. That's going to have historical implications far beyond anything Google or Apple or Microsoft or any of those companies have. You're saying he may have more Bitcoin than he lets on. He's claiming single-digit ownership of Bitcoin. So I don't know if that's to be believed or not. But the guy supposedly has fewer than 10 coins. It would be very easy for him to change that. So, who knows how current that news will be, but he is claiming single-digit ownership. The thing that I did like the best from what he said was he seems to be getting a good understanding of the community and the kind of people involved. And to hear him talk about how you have very sort of intelligent, unique thinkers. The world doesn't get that either for the most part right now. I've been learning about this stuff and getting to know people for years now. And it's every day, it just dawns on me more and more that we have a really, really special collection of people in Bitcoin right now. And not just for raw intelligence. I mean, there's plenty of that, just IQ and brain power, but an ability to see the big picture and kind of see through the numbers and the digits of the financial world into deeper meaning. We've got that right now. And I feel like this is a special moment in history. And you get that, from time to time, sometimes centuries apart, where there's just this incredible collection of people that it's just the right place at the right time. People who can really make an impact because they have that deeper understanding. And I think we've got it here. And I'm glad to hear that he seems to recognize that.
Yeah, we got some unique beasts in the house, and I'm glad he does. He can see this, and the more the merrier. We're going to say what we believe here. It's a motley crew. I love it. Now, Alex, you have a take on this dude, Paul Tudor Jones?
I mean, nothing much. I guess I kind of wrote about. There was a little section in the article that I wrote the other day, which is called. I called it "Run of the Rich," and kind of what I said was, when rich people are people that have acquired wealth, whether genuinely acquired wealth, for the right reasons or for the bad reasons or for indifferent reasons, when they start thinking, like, because at the moment, people with money and people with wealth, that they're effectively trusting the institutions that are, the state, the government, the central banks, etc., to give them some form of guarantee for the preservation or protection of their wealth. But as those guarantees diminish, you're going to see these people like there's nothing like an economic incentive for to change someone's behavior or their attitude towards something. There's nothing like the threat of pain or loss to make people change. Kind of in the article I said, pain is not only the mother of I can't remember. I said something about necessity is not only the mother of all invention, but it's it's the grandmother of all change. So things become necessities as the threshold for pain is reached. So, Paul Tudor Jones is kind of, he's earlier on the spectrum. He's not in a position of, where he's freaking out about it yet. But, he's sort of more on the curiosity side of the spectrum. And, that's where we broadly are with these larger players. But as, the reality comes to bear, which is the state and the central banks, are no longer exist to protect wealth and private property, the desire or the need to put your wealth somewhere that's out of the reach of their tentacles is going to become more important. So I think this is just early signs of that. And so Saylor, and so's all the other larger scale guys who are starting to take this thing more seriously.
Yeah, I like how you tie it into your awesome article that we're going to talk about. It's linked to below, people, if you want to read it. If you want to do your homework and read it right now. Okay, let's move on to some news that was well, I guess it could be tied into the larger world. And if you three think it has anything to do with Bitcoin now, a new Bretton Woods moment. The IMF had a press release video about the possible changing of the economic system on the planet. I thought it was a lot of hype and just a lot of gobbledygook talking about climate change and whatnot. And really, if you own Bitcoin, you really don't have to worry about the IMF very much. But Alex Cross, did you have an opinion on this?
Yeah, my initial reaction is a gesture that I'm not going to make on YouTube. It's that magnetic poetry stuff people put on their refrigerator where they just rearrange the words. It was basically that for the buzzwords of the moment. Just a bunch of gobbledygook. It's we need a climate, gender equality, da 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 da. Like, okay, what is that? It doesn't mean anything. It's a press release. It invokes the name of Bretton Woods, so we want to treat it like it's a big deal. It's not going to be. It's these same old people in they're sitting in their bureaucracies of systems that they don't even realize are crumbling under them. I think COVID is probably the nail in the coffin to their world, and a lot of people are just turning away from it and not listening anymore. They're just looking for new initiatives to hand them more power, more authority over everything. And it's not going to work because we have Bitcoin and we don't have to listen. And I really can't give it any more respect than that. It's just a bunch of buzzwords.
I also don't think it's going to work because it's not in the incentives of any of the sovereign nations right now to give any more power to the IMF. So the IMF wants to say we need to rewrite our monetary system, and we need to maybe issue this CBDC that all of these nations are backing. But no sovereign nation wants to give up the ability for them to print as much as they want. And so no one is going to want to buy in to what the IMF is saying. And so they're just shouting in the wind, in my opinion, trying to raise enthusiasm for something that is never going to happen. Not just because individuals don't want it, like we have no reason to buy their CBDC, but also sovereign nations have no reason to buy into a new Bretton Woods.
Yeah, the only people who would really be on board with it are the people who don't have power to make it happen. To your point.
All right, we got Alex is messing with his microphone there. I think you got a little issue. It's caused a little bit of feedback too. Alex, what's your do you take on this Bretton Woods situation or IMF situation?
Yeah, look, it's funny. I've recently, just to maintain an iota of sanity, I've been listening to Atlas Shrugged again for the third time, and it's I mean, for anyone who hasn't read or listened to the book yet, like the audiobook is brilliant. The narrator who does it is like, one of the best narrators I've ever heard. And I personally think it's the most important book ever written. And I don't know, it just reminds me, what's happening today just reminds me of kind of the third innings of the book, where basically the state or the establishment, is basically, releasing mindless press releases and all of these initiatives where they say stuff, but what they say doesn't actually say anything. So and they use all these terms which are politically charged, but you're unable to actually relate them to anything that's real, rational, or factual. Everything starts to sound like doublespeak. So it's kind of, if we use that book, which I think was a powerful, almost like a warning or a prediction for what happens when you structure a society from a collectivist standpoint, if that's anything to go by, like this is sort of the death throes. The problem is how long does it take for the thing, the house of cards that they've built to sort of wobble and fall, because they got a whole lot of sticky tape, at the moment. And I don't know. I just think it's round, how many years has it been since the last Bretton Woods? It's round 50 of the clown show, and here we go again with another idea. So nothing's changed.
Keep in mind too, it's been longer since Bretton Woods ended than Bretton Woods ever existed. So to talk about getting back to that as a baseline is kind of silly.
A very good point. Very good point. I mean, people are upset. People put too much behind the whole entire Bretton Woods. They'd like to develop conspiracy theories around it, but you're definitely right. It's been gone longer than it existed. So I mean, but it's a buzzword, and very good reference to Atlas Shrugged, that everyone should listen to it on audiobook. I'm actually currently doing that. I can't assign that as your homework, people, because it would take a long time. But if you have some free time, it's not a necessity, but it is good. It's amazing she wrote that in the 50s. It has some great parallels to today, to say the least. Well, all the news of the week has brought about, who knows if it brought about the surge that we're seeing. And right now, Bitcoin is slipping away from 13,000, but we're long-term thinkers. But it's been quite a week in terms of price for you fiat freaks. So I did want to get a quick take from the panel if this is the start of the big bull, or just what their take is on the situation. For me, I'm not getting too excited. I know the election is coming up, and I expect quite a bit of turbulence. I do not expect I don't expect an all-time high this month or November. I'll tell you that. So we'll start with Reed on this.
Yeah, I think we're going to continue to see people drawn in from the price movement, and that will support higher prices. And I'm not going to give you any price predictions, but it is a sustainable move, and like always, you'll see pullbacks. But yeah, we are headed much higher in the coming 8 months.
Yeah, long-term thinking. But presidential election, who knows? Remember March the 12th, people. Remember when people reacted over the virus that's out there. So who knows what will come about on November the 3rd? But it's just, keep on stacking the sats, as I say. Alex, your take on price this week?
I was looking at the price, and obviously, me, because I still have an income. I'm stacking every week. So the main thing I noticed is that my crappy dollars are just buying less sats every day, which is sad. It's extremely sad. Because I haven't hit my goal of owning all the Bitcoin yet. Clearly, it's an ongoing thing. But it's my guess is that in the same way as over 2015 and particularly 2016, there was sort of moves of up and down $80 or $100, over week periods or month periods. All we are is an order of magnitude larger now. So we could come down another $1,000 or $2,000. So like we're sort of in the in this really building a base zone. And I'm not trying to read tea leaves here, but it's I think it's part of the larger bull run up. But this isn't sort of we're not going to 100 grand next week or next month. I highly doubt that. I think I would actually prefer to see Bitcoin break a few hearts here, particularly the hearts of like the Novogratz and stuff of the world who I don't think have been shook out yet. So anyway, we'll see.
I mean, there might be some weak hands that go away if it does go below 10K. I'm not saying it's going. I mean, it could. We've got this incredible 10K streak going. For it to get to 100 days straight would have to be November 5th, which is after the election. So Al's across your take on price?
Yeah, I think there's nothing like a little price correction or crash to shake out who really understands Bitcoin and who doesn't. I do think, that being said, though, that we're probably at the beginning of a pretty serious run. I can't totally make price predictions, but I think I tend to side with the people who think once we break all-time high, doubling all-time high will come so fast that you won't believe it. So to me, 20K is just kind of the beginning. When that happens is when I'll start to get pretty excited about it. Maybe my my emotional affect is a little too flat all the time. I like that it's going up, but I'm not like, holy shit, we went up another $500. Like it's $500, whatever, $1,000, whatever. That's nice, but sorry, I shouldn't have cursed there, but yeah, it's good. I'm glad to see it. I kind of do like price being where it is right now, so I can stack harder. But at some point we do have to get moving on this. The way the cycles have played out before, we're going to be hitting that point pretty soon where we'll be 18 months from the halving, and like clockwork, maybe it'll happen. There's a lot of controversy over that, but yeah, I think we're at the beginning of something. This time I do think that big names in finance are starting to understand things in a way that we understood it, 4 years ago. So it's going to get interesting for sure. Just a real quick circle back to, talking about cycles and PayPal. What happens if we do have a huge bull run and a lot of people have Bitcoin and paper only on PayPal, and then there is the crash that you always get after that cycle, and they all want to withdraw it. We talk about PayPal having a lot of money, but so did Lehman Brothers. So I don't know. It's just a thought that I had as I'm talking here. So
yeah, that's true, but you comparing it to Lehman Brothers is proper, because again, my answer would be PayPal's got a lot of money, but you would say so did Lehman Brothers. I think they could pull it off, but hey, it's their risk. It's not mine. And as everyone on this show has said, do not buy your Bitcoin through PayPal, people. No. I don't know why anyone who watches my show on a regular basis would even consider that.
And tell your relatives and friends too. If they ask you about it, tell them not to do that. There are a lot of other options. Yeah. Some of whom are represented on this particular call. So
yeah, we
send them to Amber if they're an Aussie, and to Swan if they live in the US.
Yeah, there you go, man. I bring you the people that are on the ground, dudes, that are teaching people to get the real thing, and that is Bitcoin. Now, I mean, PayPal's taking it to a whole new level, and fake things. They're selling you fake Litecoin also. No one's done that yet. So, but people will do it. They will diversify for the sake of diversification. There'll be unit bias. Oh, I want the cheapest one out there, so I'll get the fake Litecoin. Oh, all right. Well, speaking about altcoins, real quick, at the beginning of the week, we had the latest flavor of the month, Filecoin, and then some people said it did great. Some people said it just exploded in everyone's face. I want to get a real, if anyone was actually paying attention on this panel, it was news at the beginning of the week, so it's been totally overshadowed now. But I just want to get a take on the latest flavor of the month.
With this one, Adam, which is I had no idea. I've been not paying attention to this at all. And then before the call, you said, "Oh, we're going to be talking about Filecoin." I was like, I don't care about alts at all. Did a little research. According to my understanding, what happened is just after this thing launched, they just changed the mining algorithm, and all of the miners who had built up all this capital planning to mine a specific coin in a specific way, all that capital was then useless. And so the miners were pissed and dropped off the network. And in my mind, that's as much of a story as I know. But in my mind, it's just a good indication of you just can't change the network out from under people, and you need to allow people a consistent foundation to build on, because mining takes an enormous amount of long-term thinking and capital production and allocation, and if you change the algorithm you use, you're going to make all that useless. So fortunately, that's not going to happen in Bitcoin, and that's my only understanding of Filecoin, and I hope I never hear from it again.
You may not hear from it again. The miners went on strike apparently. What your point And the reason I even bring it up, you made the point right there. This is why you don't hear about MicroStrategy and other corporations buying some altcoin for their treasury. They want something that is going to stay the same. So you can have your altcoin flavor of the month that changes on a whim, but the thing that doesn't change, Bitcoin, the consistency there, that's what the big boys buy into. Okay, they don't want everything. That's called a long-term investment. So there's a huge contrast there, but so many people are impulsive and they do not get it. Okay, rest of the panel, do you have anything to say about Filecoin or altcoins or anything like that? All right.
I'll just add real quick. It's a perfect example of the inability to think systemically. Again, it's not just about let's snap on this feature or this or that. There's a whole system there, and they just got a really good lesson in when you don't think about that, it's a disaster.
Excellent. All right, Alex, tell us about your article.
Yeah, well, it spawned from an idea that I came up with a little while ago when and it just sort of came up in conversation with Marty and Matt when I did the first TFTC podcast sort of early or mid last year, I think it was. And one of the things when they were asking, they were like, why do people come to Bitcoin or whatever? And I just said, there's probably two drivers. It's, you come to Bitcoin, if you're curious, or, whether through pain or curiosity, basically. That's the two fundamental drivers. And, I gave that some more thought. And most recently, obviously produced this article, and what I tied that to was this idea of Bitcoin's adoption is going to be a function of its necessity. The more time that passes, the more the fabric of the existing society is going to fall apart. The more tumultuous things are going to get. The less guarantees people will have for the protection of their private property and their wealth. And the more censorship that's going to happen, the more inflation that's going to occur, the more destruction of the capital that we've built as human beings over hundreds of thousands of years is going to occur. Like, things are not going to get better because we're not doing less of what got us here in the first place. Like, this whole democratic republic / centralized edifice that we've built over the last 100 years is not getting better. It's getting worse. And the solution that these idiots think to the problem is, to do more of what they did in the past. Arguably, Trump is kind of, reversing some of that. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's all the same. It's all the same garbage. Like, it's the same statist, centralization, more control, less respect for private property, less respect for free markets, less respect for wealth preservation, all of that. So, Bitcoin offers the perfect attributes of money, and particularly the whole idea of an uncensorable means of exchange, payment mechanism, and an uninflatable store of value, and a verifiable unit of account, like the three things that you need for money. And different people at different stages of their life, in different places that they're born and live in, will depend on the guarantees of one or more of those three functions of money. And the only thing that can deliver that is Bitcoin. So as time progresses, it's not a question of will people, or it's not if, it's not will people come to Bitcoin, it's when will they come to Bitcoin. And the only difference is going to be, are you going to do it because you want to or because you have to? And the ramification of that decision is going to be, if you do it because you want to, you're most likely going to pick up Bitcoin at a better price. If you do it because you have to, you're probably going to do it when it's going to be more expensive. So all that you're doing by waiting and being arrogant and ignorant enough to avoid Bitcoin at this point in time, or arguably unfortunate enough, there is some people who just don't have exposure to to this. is going to be just paying a higher price later. Now, that there's nothing we can really do to change that, and kind of tying this actually into the Filecoin thing before. Bitcoin's best attribute is it's going to be Bitcoin today. It's going to be Bitcoin in 10 years. It's going to be Bitcoin in 100 years. And that guarantee of inflexibility, that guarantee of ossification, is where the value of one of the core value propositions of Bitcoin, and why it can provide a guarantee across those multiple dimensions of what money, the function money provides in society. So, I mean, and I drew out that graph, which people can go ahead and have a look at, and it's for illustrative purposes, so it's not to scale. But Bitcoin's adoption will reach 100% when the necessity reaches 100%, and at that point the price will be infinity over 21 million. So it's like these are, I think that's an axiomatic fact. It's no longer an if, it's just a when, and they're the parameters that everyone's got an option to play with. And the only decision you have is not whether you're going to be part of Bitcoin or not on a long enough time scale. It's just when, and that's it.
All right, it is a great article. You people will love it. How he describes the current event situation that's going on in the supposed free world. And on that note, Alex, I'm going to let you talk about what's going on. You're an Australian. What's the latest that's going on there with current events? I mean, what's your take on the government's handling of current events there? It's becoming quite sad.
I don't know, man. I've kind of given up on that country, to be honest. It's there's it's turned into the modern the neo-Nazis, basically. Like what can we call them? They're neo-commies. Like I don't know what to say. Like they're going to try and impose forced vaccinations. They've got lockdowns like we've never had in the history of any so-called free world civilization. Like I don't know. I've even got a friend that's from Germany, and she's not allowed to leave the freaking country without applying for an exit visa. Like, what are we? Like, it's ridiculous. She's not even from that damn country. She's not even a citizen of Australia, and they won't let her leave. So it's like, it's just weird, man. So I don't know. I keep saying that. I actually hope that they keep restricting people and they keep pushing the lockdowns, because I hope something just snaps and people go out and riot. Because until they do that, the more slowly they let the draconian measures be imposed, the less chance there is of overturning that, because all they're doing is moving the Overton window of what's acceptable. So it's weird, man. It's crazy.
And right now, there's no real pushback from the population, no protests, or even sort of like alternative media presenting alternative takes.
I'm not there. There's a little bit of alternative media. There's a couple people, like there's a guy who I'm friends with called Pete Evans, who's like a famous chef, and he's sort of like turned carnivore a while ago and all this sort of stuff. Now he's not. I've got a little mission to try to turn him into a Bitcoiner, but he's sort of been pushing back against it. And there is some faces and names and all that sort of stuff. But again, I'm not there to see. Apparently there was a protest in Melbourne recently as well, like a couple of days ago. Pushing back. So I hope that there is. What's interesting is that a lot of the pushback is actually from, it's kind of like in Australia, we've got a term called the WOGs, so WOGS. So it's like, it's kind of like it was traditionally a derogatory term, like kind of like FOBs, like fresh off the boat. And it referred to Eastern and Southern Europeans, so like Macedonians and Balkans and Italians and all that sort of stuff. And that sort of was originally a derogatory term, but we kind of, my generation and everything, picked that up and we ran with that as, we kind of called ourselves, we're WOGs and we're proud of it. And we've sort of, traditionally been more like the rebels and all that sort of stuff in the region. And because, our parents came as immigrants and had to kind of work their way up and effectively, built a lot of the culture in, Melbourne and parts of Sydney. So the only people I see getting up and rioting against this kind of stuff is that sort of community. It's the community that grew up, who had their parents have to work for stuff, whereas the rest of them are asleep, man. It's just the it's just such a shame. They take the attitude of, yeah, everything will be right, and trust the government. It's like, all right, no worries.
Oh God, Australia, wake up! And if you're in a big, I'm sure some people just want to fit in. They don't want to get fired from their job. That's why you have Bitcoin and you work for yourself. You don't have to worry. In the Bitcoin overlay, you can say what you want to. Keep speaking the truth. I will keep speaking the truth on this show about this worldwide insane situation. And again, for all the people that say the United States is so horrible and bad, dude, it's a lot more free. It's free here compared to so many other countries locking down. Okay, you can go if you don't like one state, you can go to another state, and we're handling it a lot better than other. I would not want to be in Australia now. I would not want to be in Israel now. Okay, I would not want to be in New Zealand now. United States is doing it. I mean, we're not. There's a lot of problems here. Okay, but these other countries have gone insane, and I'm glad. Gone. Hang on. All right.
Is on.
We got cut off there a second, dudes. All right, so let's get to the good news, the concluding news from everybody. They can tell their personal stories, talk about what's going on with their jobs, any news that we forgot. We'll start with Reed.
Yeah, so I work in customer support, head of customer support at Swan, and we're growing quickly, and it's fun to see a bunch of new people come in. I mean, as much as we are a company that guides people toward consistent DCA buying, when the price pumps, demand goes way up, and we see a massive influx of people. So that's been fun and very busy this week. Onboarding a bunch of people, calling people, and teaching them about Bitcoin, teaching them about wallets, teaching about our product. So we're firing on all cylinders. Things are fun. Yeah, I've literally been like in the trenches, teaching people about Bitcoin all week, and just had half an hour this morning to actually like look about the news of what's going on in the Bitcoin world. So things are going well.
Okay, you're in motion. That's good. That is great. Alex, how about you? Is business picking up? Has there been a lot of interest, in anything else you got to say?
Look, it's the same thing as what Reed said. As much as we're a DCA business, the price pumps, and all of a sudden people wake up and they start FOMOing in. Like this is why a DCA product is so important. Like no matter how many times you bang people over the head, all they do is like they're like, oh yeah, I'll just buy low and sell high, and then they go and do the opposite. So it's just, I don't know, man, beyond comprehension. So yeah, I mean, business is good. I'm starting to do some writing again. Actually, probably one decent announcement is I've got Bitcoin Times Edition 3 on the cards, and it will have obviously myself, Jimmy Song, Giacomo Zucco, Parker Lewis, Jeff Booth, and Eric Casson in it. So it's gonna be awesome. It's good. It's like the theme, broadly speaking, is sort of Bitcoin as a Promethean invention or thing, so it's kind of like stealing fire back from the clown show that is that is best exemplified by what we've seen happen in 2020. So I think it's going to be a powerful addition, and really looking forward to releasing that hopefully end of November. And I've got so many articles that I just haven't had a chance to finish, so I really want to start doing some writing again. So yeah, keep an eye out. I'll be pumping out some content.
Awesome update. Okay, Al's Lacrosse, we'll end it with you.
All right. Well, as always, I'm hosting Dirtbag Friday tonight. If you're interested, hit me in DMs. It's a great Zoom meetup for anyone who's interested in Bitcoin. There'll be people whose names you know there and people's names you don't, but everybody gets kind of an equal say there. Really good community. On a personal note, I will be relocating pretty soon. We were talking about some of that Australia stuff. I'm moving to Texas soon, which is, a very Bitcoin friendly state. And it's a place that I wanted to be somewhere that I think embraces life and getting on with life, as opposed to this misery and embrace of state power for the sake of state power. So I'll be looking to develop my role somewhere in the Bitcoin community there, and really looking forward to it.
That is awesome, man. You are in motion. You couldn't stay on the East Coast, and you go to a more free place. That's what you do. You're not just, don't be a tree, people, as we've said on this show before. You can always leave. You can always get into a better situation. And Bitcoin, this is the golden age, and you can make friends quick in this space. All right, dudes. Thank you Best guest in the freaking space. All three of you were awesome today. Keep on coming back. You will be back. We do this show every freaking Friday. You get a new show here on this channel every single day. Beyond Bitcoin, all sorts of stuff. So subscribe, pound that like button. Shabbat shalom, everybody. I'm Adam Meister, BitcoinMeister, Disrupt Meister. See you guys soon. Thanks a lot, everybody. And thank you, viewers. Everybody have a fun weekend. See ya.
Thank you.